I spend my whole life longing.
Get started. Ma'am, let me you introduce yourself. Tell me about your industry, what you do, and how you got into it.
Oh, okay. So, first off, I'm an introvert. So, asking me to talk all about myself, I'm like, my name is Patrice, attorney
Okay.
and founder of Creative Genius Law, which I started actually in 2010. So, this year was our 15-year anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
And Creative Genius, thank you. It feels a little bit unreal, to be honest. I feel
Okay.
like the time went really fast and then, went really slow and then fast again. And then we were at 15 years randomly. So, 15 years of serving creatives across different industries. And for me, it's really the folks who are purely in the art, media, or culture spaces.
Okay.
And our clientele are people who are looking to make an impact, usually the big visionary folks who care a lot about their people and who really want to there's my service really centers on three really should be earning that's more reflective of value regardless of like stage in career, and then also intellectual property because we create a lot of dope shit,
Yeah.
and unfortunately it usually doesn't get protected until someone else lays eyes on it and decides to use it for themselves. So intellectual property has been really important for me.
Okay, awesome. So you going up, hitting 15, which is a major, major milestone.
Hmm.
And we're
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it to 15 more years, so that'll be a good thing. So did you
Yes.
yourself start off as a creative, or you were working with a lot of creatives? You're like, oh my God, I see a niche here. I want to do something and broaden into that. So yeah, tell me about that.
So it's interesting. The way that the firm started was that I love all forms of creative art.
Okay.
And so for me, I was just being Patrice outside of the office, hanging out in creative spaces, usually for me, art or music. And I realized that most people did not have attorneys. And the reason that I heard most often was because either number one, they didn't trust attorneys, or they felt that the legal process would restrict the creative process and that
Okay.
attorneys wouldn't be able to support the really big ideas and didn't even want to be bothered with it. And I have to say that I completely understood. And so that helped me, number one, be super clear on the group that I wanted to serve because I saw this as a group of people who worked really hard, usually prioritizing the community and everyone else first,
Yeah.
but kind of ate last, if I'm being honest. And so I saw it as a group that I could support with my skill set. But also it helped me land on the fact that I really wanted a firm that focused more on using the law to nurture creativity
Okay.
and to expand opportunities versus it being the restrictive version that we hear about most often. So that was really just me hanging out in the space and caring about a certain group of people is what inspired the firm. But looking back, the breadcrumbs were there all along.
Okay.
I have always been a creative. I went to a grammar school in Chicago that really centered the arts
Okay.
and spent probably more time in the art studio with my art teacher than in any of my other classes. And I started also writing from a young age. I had a children's newspaper from the age of 9
Oh
and a full
wow.
team. And it was for pay. You had to pay a
Okay. All
quarter
right, ma'am.
to receive a
Mm,
hard copy of my children's newspaper.
okay.
So that bug was had been in me my entire life.
Okay. That is awesome. Okay, what was the name of the children's newspaper?
I don't remember. I think it was something as simple as the neighborhood children's
Okay.
newspaper. It was something very simple. And I had a small team. I would I would sell copies at my dance school. I took dance from a very young age, and so I would go with my little steel lockbox for the money with plenty of change for people, and I would sell physical copies of my newspaper, which were done on like my I think it was PS2 computer at the time.
Okay. Oh, that is awesome. So
Yeah.
you've had the both the creative bug as well as the entrepreneurial bug since for forever.
hmm Yep, absolutely. I come from a family that has a deep entrepreneurial spirit for sure, and a creative bug. My granddad played the violin from a very young age. My grandmother was a piano teacher. My dad is a writer. And my mom was in education, but an art collector. And so I've had various influences my entire life.
Okay, that's amazing. So we got to talk about your dad. So I had the pleasure of sitting down with your dad, and he just gloats about you, which is amazing. He's like, "I'm a writer," and got into law. And then when I saw her do it, and she was able to do it, he was like, "I just love it." So the fact that even with all the creativity, and he did tell me about your granddad as a violinist, and um your family and being in that space, of course it was going to certainly hit you as well. But now the fact that
Mhm.
you're representing artists and allowing them to stay in their lane, if I could say that, and keep their creativity
Mhm.
flowing and all of that while you're protecting that right, that's an amazing thing. So one
Mhm.
question that I have, being in this space now for 15 years, how
Mhm.
what has been one of the major things that you have seen among the artists that you have to like really keep going hard with them about in terms of being an
Mhm.
artist, but then also being an entrepreneur?
So lawyer me wants to ask artists more broadly or among my clientele?
Artists more broadly.
Okay. I would say there is a deep willingness to be informed about the business aspect
Okay.
of the art, whatever the art is. And I attribute for as much as we can probably say that's negative about social media, I actually attribute that to social media and news stories being more widely accessible to people who maybe hadn't read, picked up like print papers in the past. So you have all these headlines around, people having things stolen from them, large corporations stealing designs that were created by an individual creator and then putting it on a t-shirt.
Mhm.
I think that these headlines are more widely accessible and it makes artists more curious in a way where maybe they were operating in silo before. And for someone like me, that's huge because at the end of the day, I can't really, number one, you're never going to hire me if you don't care about the business aspect of things. But also, I can't even do what I love around the legal education if you don't at least have the awareness and some level of care around it. And I see a real level of care and maybe not wanting to know all the nuts and bolts, but at least wanting to be informed at a high level. I've seen a shift and I think it's beautiful.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So with the changes from when you first started to where you are now, and you of course mentioned the social media stuff, do you see more
Mhm.
artists now um, embracing the business side aspect, but still wanting to still stay in that lane as an artist, but being able to balance both of those worlds a little bit better now?
Absolutely. Yep, I see it. It's a beautiful thing. And you're hitting the nail on the head with wanting to stay in their lane as a creative because they do want to stay in that lane for the most part. But what I see is wanting to know enough about business and legal so that they can develop the trust in the number one in the team that they're developing, but also so they can make informed decisions. And one of my big things has always been um, empowerment in decision making. You're not, even if you hire an attorney today, you might be without an attorney 3 months from now, need to make a decision. I want you to be more empowered in that independent decision making as well, because that is really what's going to support you long term. And so, yes, I have seen a beautiful shift.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. So with
Mhm.
your clientele, do you have a good mixture of young as well as older folks, or is it pretty much one generation that you're particularly focusing on?
You know what? I don't focus on a particular generation, but the folks who come to me are very much, I mean, the demographics are changing, but I would say a lot of millennials
Hmm.
come to me. I would say Gen X comes to me. I'm starting to get, but they're all across the gambit, and it's really interesting. So I do get some of our elders in, which for me is a beautiful thing. I was actually having a conversation with a client yesterday because he considers himself to be aging,
Okay.
and as he's aging, he's thinking about things differently. He's
Right.
not necessarily thinking about 5, 10 years out. He's starting to focus more like on the legacy building piece now.
Okay.
And so when I get our elders in, they usually are thinking more about the past body of work they've created and what are some things I should do now to protect that body of work, versus like themselves as, a creative. And then I'm getting more younger folks in,
Okay.
which is beautiful because I think it goes back to them for to the headlines. They're catching wind of these headlines now. um, I think younger generations tend to do a great job of standing up for themselves. And so they're like, I want to get my business together now. Like, I'm not looking to have to fix or pull myself out of anything 10 years from now. So I am getting folks who are more in their, I would say, early to mid 20s, which has been really interesting.
Okay. Oh, so that's you.
Hmm.
You definitely have a across the board intergenerational setup of folks that you're working with.
Very much so.
Right. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So with some of the elders that are now coming to you about establishing that legacy and setting up stuff, have you had to work with any artists that have a nice portfolio of work, but now they have to backtrack and go get rights from things that. So can you, without
Hmm.
giving too much information, can you tell us
Hmm.
about one of those episodes?
Yeah. So one is actually a um, family member of a famous composer.
Okay.
And the family member was left with the charge of managing the entire body of work. A famous composer who's since deceased,
Okay.
passed away. And so the family member was left with the charge of essentially like managing the entire body of work, and which is a beautiful thing, but also can be quite daunting.
Mhm.
And so, as a family member who's left in that position, they usually want to do the best that they can, but they need to build a team because they might not know the music industry. They
Right.
might not know how to rewind everything. And so, our first bit of phase of work, we've been working together for years, but our first phase was literally getting all of the
Okay.
music. We have
Oh my
binders
God.
of the compositions that were created, and assessing that, starting to backtrack to see like what was actually registered with the Copyright Office, what wasn't, creating an inventory of it. Then we moved into filling the gap with the copyright registrations because the family member can't represent the music if you don't have a clear record of ownership.
Mhm.
So making sure all the copyright registrations work together. And then we moved into developing like our protocols for licensing the music. So the family member now has a publishing company that represents the music.
Okay.
Anytime requests come in to license it, which have come in quite frequently, especially I would say from like college choirs, HBCU choirs have been a big source of licensing. Those requests come to our office, and so we manage that whole process. We've gotten requests for some of the work to be reprinted in anthologies. We manage that, but we couldn't do any of that without reverse engineering to figure out
Ma'am, how big is your
clean chain of
team?
title, a legal
How
term.
big is your team, ma'am?
Not big. Hello, not big, but small and mighty. We went from at our largest, we had a team of about 11, and now we have a team of four.
Okay.
We had to downsize like a lot of people did throughout the pandemic.
Right.
In order for us to still be here, we had to downsize. So I have an attorney. I am the main attorney, but I
Okay.
have a few part-time attorneys that I bring in during heavier seasons, and then I have a client care manager, and then two ladies on our support team.
Okay. Oh my God. But
So
you're
small
doing some
team.
phenomenal work. That's amazing.
Thank you, thank you. Sometimes it feels unreal to be honest, because even like with the client scenario that I just described, being able to like physically touch some of that sheet music
Yeah.
and see the dates of when it was first composed, I'm literally touching history.
Yes.
And so it's been a complete honor to be able to work, with our elders in that way.
Right. I love this. So the scenario that you just used, I loved it because especially now where we are with, in terms of preserving history and as they're trying to completely erase a lot of stuff, um, sitting down and even in some of my conversations that I've had with some of the elders and the amount of history that has gone through them and songs that have been
Mhm,
lost and they're, trying to
mhm,
regain that stuff. I think is very, very important what you're doing because, and I came across a colleague who's on the other flip side of working with some of our elders, but as well as some of our folks from the beginning of hip hop years who are now going back because they didn't fill the paperwork out right. They put their
mhm,
stage name versus their government name on the paperwork.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so they're now having to go back and backtrack with some of the labels to get their royalties and different things like that. So the fact
Yeah,
that you're teaching and showing people exactly how to do it the right way, I think is very, very important. And even the fact that the young folks are coming to you and be like, nah, let me set it up right from the get-go.
yeah,
So we won't backtrack
yeah.
because one of the people that I talked to, she was telling me that just how some of the royalty checks that she sent out be like 20 cents, 15 cents, and stuff like that because
Mhm.
the paperwork wasn't set up right and the labels took a chunk of everything for a lot of different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then one of the things we're actually working on right now with this client, which I think is inspirational for either families who had creatives in their family who have aged, or our elders who are still here and have a body of work, is we're dealing with, there were a few songs that the family member composed that where rights are with an old label.
Mhm.
And there was a provision in the Copyright Act that allowed, under certain circumstances, for people to get those ownership rights transferred back to them. A lot of
Okay.
people don't know it was called the copyright reversion.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know it, and it applies to that generation of elders because it depends on when the song was actually, when the work was actually created. So with this client, we're actually able to go back and get back ownership of a few of the songs
Okay.
because of this section of the Copyright Act.
Mhm.
And what keeps people from not leveraging that is they just don't know about it. But
Right.
also, it's somewhat of a technical process. You have to meet very strict time
Okay.
requirements in order to get those rights transferred back. So we're doing that with her now to get some of the
Okay.
songs back under the family's publishing company.
Okay. So, question for you. I'm gonna keep this short. I try to keep the interviews to 30 minutes. But okay, so when
Mhm.
you were going to law school, did you know that you wanted to go into this type of law? So this falls under entertainment law, correct?
Well, entertainment and art law are considered two different industries.
Okay. So did you
hmm
kind of have an idea that this was the direction that you wanted to go into law school, or did this come a little bit later?
I had zero idea. What I knew going into law school was that I cared about economic development.
Okay.
I actually had started a dual program for a master's in public service and also my JD
Okay.
with a emphasis on metropolitan planning and urban affairs.
Oh, wow.
So I cared, yes, I cared about economic well-being and economic development in Black and Brown communities. And so through law school, I focused different aspects of what I believed, focused on studying different aspects of our economic well-being. And I focused heavily on healthcare law in law school. And it wasn't until I came out of law school when I had that experience that I shared where I was like, oh no, this is what I want to do instead. And I was on my career path, which was a dream career path. And so it came to me in a series of light bulb moments.
Okay.
And what I did was self-study. I reached out to a few mentors, so I do heavily believe in mentorship. I had a few entertainment attorneys mentor me, and I learned
Okay.
before I just started studying. Before I took clients, I learned from books. I learned from my mentors. They let me shadow them on things, and that was how I was really able to get my start.
Wow, that's amazing. But it goes hand in hand, especially on the economic development aspect. So there's so many different layers with that. So that it makes sense. But I love the fact how
Mm-hmm.
your journey kind of pivoted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm. And
amazing.
here's the thing, my undergrad degree was in economics. And so
Okay.
when I really look at the full picture, it all makes sense
Yeah,
because me caring about IP is actually very much an economics issue.
very much.
So yeah, it all came full circle.
Yeah. And then also the fact of like you even started off at the beginning talking about just the amount of creativity in among us and how that has
Hmm.
been a huge contribution to our culture and what we do. And how many of us have gotten played over on so many aspects of losing our culture because of a lot of things that we just didn't know, we weren't made privy to and stuff like that. But the fact that you're, in a sense, preserving the whole culture, you're preserving the history, you're a historian in certain aspects, if we want to even look in that direction, but you're doing things to sustain and even bring it back to the community. So that's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm I know we winding down on time, but I love talking to you.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say I love that you frame it, that you're able to see it through the lens of preservation,
Yeah.
because that's really what it is. And I've been um trying to figure out for myself how to bring more people in to get them to see it that way. But it is a part of preserving our culture. You have the physical preservation of the culture, but you also have the preservation of the stories and the
Yeah.
rights, and what I feel people are entitled to for giving so much their entire lifetime. And so it absolutely is that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think that um however you put a spin on it, there's so many layers and crossovers and stuff, going from the aspect of economics, going to the aspect of urban development, preservation and stuff, because it even contributes back to, some of the stuff that I had initially started. I was focusing on just doing blues, but then that has like overlaid into education policy and different things like that. So I see it as the same thing. So yes, you're preserving, sustaining the culture, all of that good stuff. So yeah, what you're doing is very much needed. Are you bringing on new clients, ma'am? That's another question.
I am bringing on new clients. We
Okay.
are almost always bringing on new clients. So
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, because I've been talking to some of the elders and just some of the stuff that they want to do and some of the things that, for them to keep afloat and stay, current. They're looking and asking certain questions. And I was like, before I make a recommendation, let me ask first. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. Good to
absolutely.
know. Good to know. Maybe it might even branch you off, get your team big again. So let's work towards that.
Oh no, let's not, because what I learned about myself was that I do not enjoy the management of a larger team. So we're gonna stay where we at and figure it out from there.
Okay. I can respect that. I can respect. But Patrice, it was a pleasure talking to you, ma'am. Thank you for
You
answering
too.
the question. I want to do this again because I know you bring so much wealth and knowledge to this industry, and anything that you can do to even ask some of the answer some of the questions of the elders, but then also the new younger the younger generation, because even
Yeah.
though they may be knowledgeable on the digital age, still they need to know the business
Yeah.
aspect. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
Well,
for
I
having me.
appreciate what you're doing, and we're gonna have to sit down again, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you
All
so
right, take
much.
care and enjoy your weekend, ma'am.
You too.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.